What is up, Dish Rags? JJ back here with Holden talking a little NFL for week 2, September the 20th. Holden, decent week last week for a bunch of our guys. How'd you end up making out?
Good. I was plus territory for week 1, so you take that to the bank, man. A lot of player props. Love the player props, especially in week 1, because normally Vegas doesn't know what they're doing with player props, which is why they put a limit on them. They haven't figured out, hey, let's go to a really smart guy and steal their algorithm and pay for it so I don't lose money doing this. So
it's an extremely inefficient market, and I don't know if it'll ever be truly quote unquote efficient, because if you make it too efficient, people are going to start slamming the unders. So right now a lot of people slam overs because that's where the inefficiencies are. But ultimately, I think they need a little help there, sports books, with it. But like you said, I mean, most spots end up limiting you anyway. But they are fun. Doesn't mean they're not fun to bet. That's for sure.
All right, so let's do this, man. We got a big slate today. I know you got some good picks. I'm going to be completely transparent here. I'm so glad you found the Ravens 13.5 first half total. That's amazing.
That was Paglia. I can't take
Paglia.
I can't take responsibility for it.
That's the keg, dude. I just totally took that one. I was like, forget it. 13.5.
Yeah. What's up, Jose, Millennium, and Irfan? Irfan, good to see you, brother.
Yeah, they're scoring like 40 points at least 38 points every game. So I think that's one that I really like. I like the Devontae Adams. I think the prop went too high now, but I got in at 87.5 over. Zeke 85.5 over. And I like the Jets under 16.5. So let's get to these games here, because I give out free picks because I'm not good enough to be on the board. Rams,
completely true.
Eagles, Rams and Eagles. So we got a total here of 46. There's a little movement here, wasn't it? Maybe you can, if there's a game here and you notice any big line movement, hit me up with that, because this thing now went from Rams +3 when a lot of us got in there. Now it's 1.5 point favorite for Philadelphia. And I got to think that has everything to do with 2 of their offensive linemen being healthy. Lane Johnson's coming back. So they got a couple of guys up there. So tell me, what's going on in this game?
Yeah, so line opens Rams +3 on Sunday. I debated hitting it. The problem was I really never wanted to bet the Rams in this spot. So then the news comes out with Lane Johnson presumably going to play, and then their other offensive lineman who dealt with cramps last week, fully healthy, and then Miles Sanders coming back. I'm going to be honest, I don't consider a huge upgrade, but the offensive linemen are big, specifically Lane Johnson. You can just look at what Carson Wentz's numbers are with and without him. They are staggeringly different, almost like those home road splits I love to talk about in baseball, Holden. But anyway, so Wentz, when this number climbed to Philly +1.5 on Wednesday, that's when I banged the teaser up to 7.5 with Philly. The problem now it's Philly -1.5, so that does you no good. I do have a middle opportunity deal where I could take the Rams now up to 7.5 with a 6-point teaser, but I probably won't do that just because I'll still be I don't like to do 2 teasers in 1 week. But there is a middle opportunity there. As far as the breakdown of this game, look, we know what the Rams are. We just saw them on Sunday Night Football. They played really well against the Dallas football team. I love how I call them the Dallas football team, like they're Washington.
Washington. Everybody is football team.
But I think that's what a lot of people see. But I think sometimes people forget, like, the Rams are a much better team at home, specifically Jared Goff. We discussed this as well on the live show going into that night, that Jared Goff's home road splits, specifically passing yards, are just really staggering. Even his QBR is so much better at home than on the road. Now, Philly has woeful issues in that secondary, so they could be exploitable. But, a lot of things point to Philly kind of correcting themselves here. If you watch that Redskins game, that offensive line just got completely mashed for Philly. Wentz was kind of running for his life. And that's the thing. Like, you'll look at a game like that and be like, oh, Wentz sucks. Like, no. Like, you can only do so much if your offensive line, if you're calling hike and there's people in your face in 2.5 seconds. So look, ultimately this spot would be a lean Philly, but not a love spot anymore. Again, you could have gotten Philly at least plus on the money line, plus like 105 on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, I think their offensive line, even with a couple guys coming back, is still below average. So he's not going to get sacked 8 times this week, okay? But the Rams do have some really talented players on that defensive side of the ball. Now, the secondary, listen, sometimes there's coverage sacks. Aaron Donald's up front. They've got a terrific defense. So At this point, I still like if I can get some points with the Rams a little bit, 1.5, I don't feel awful about it. I just don't feel like I have a hard enough conviction to go now with 1.5. So we'll see. This line just swinging back and forth, JJ, isn't it? Like we've had 2 moves now.
Yes, like I said, it started Rams +3, which was probably a wrong line anyway. Then swings to Rams -1.5 with, after people watch Philly get dismantled and then the Rams look really good against Cowboys. Then the news comes out that Lane Johnson and Miles Sanders and the other offensive linemen are going to come coming back this game. Then the line swings backwards, and then it's kind of just been slowly steamed to 1.5 in favor of Philly since then.
All right, so we got Carolina, Tampa Bay. Totals here 47 or 47.5, depending on where you want to go. And, this spread is all over the place. I mean, I saw on BetMGM, you're getting 9.5 if you're betting the Carolina side. William Hill was 8.5. Circa's 8. I mean, this thing is all over the place, JJ. Like, is there any interest in this game, too? I really like Tampa Bay, but not with that big of a spread.
So here's the thing. So the Godwin news, right? Obviously, he's going to be out. I'm going to be honest. I value him like borderline less than 0.2 points to this line. He's just not a huge threat, to be honest. And his replacement value. That's the thing. Like when you talk about players being out, like the question you have to answer is their replacement. How much better or worse is their replacement going to be? For me, expect to see a lot more Scotty Miller today. I don't consider him much more of a drop off to be honest than Godwin. And again, if you value it, here's the thing, Holden, it's a wide receiver. So as far as wide receivers that actually mean something to a line, for me, the answer is short. It's Michael Thomas. Like outside of him,
Davante Adams.
So here's the thing. So Davante Adams has definitely increased his play recently. But here's the thing with Adams. Adams tends to shred secondaries that are terrible. Okay. Like absolutely god awful. Like he will pile up numbers against Minnesota, who's missing 12 guys. He's probably going to pile up numbers against Detroit, who's missing both starters today. But when you talk about him versus like real good corners, real good defenses, they typically can hone in on him. Look, he's growing as a receiver. Loved him at Fresno. Obviously, he got to play a little bit with Derek Carr. But here's the thing: I don't put him in the Michael Thomas tier yet. Obviously, Julio is up there as well. I'd say they're worth about a point to a line, but Michael Thomas for me is the guy that's worth about 1.5, maybe a little over. Outside of him, though, wide receivers in particular, I'm similar with running backs too. McCaffrey's the only really running back I value high. To me, those are positions that are very, very replaceable. Even at a top tier level, maybe like I said, at the elite level, okay, fine. But at the top tier level, these guys are all replaceable. This isn't like you're losing a Trout in the middle of your lineup. But what I will say is in relation to this game here, so Carolina is going to be a chalky dog, right? I think that a lot of people didn't like what they saw from Tampa. Here's the thing you have to realize with this. Huge mismatch on both sides in the trenches. Now, I know Tampa's offensive line might be ranked a little below average, okay? But Carolina's defensive line is one of the worst in the NFL, okay? If you're going to argue when's the spot Brady's going to have enough time to get the ball downfield, this is the spot. He's going to have Evans. He's still going to have weapons. He's still got good tight ends. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, Godwin's important, but, that team's got a plethora of weapons. I think if you're going to bet Carolina, you're assuming Carolina's going to score points. Like, and what I mean by score points, like, they're going to basically hit their team total. Because I'd assume Tampa's just going to move this ball up and down the field throughout the game on this arguably worst defense in the NFL in Carolina. So when you're laying 9 here, I know it's hard. I wouldn't do it. Tampa's going to be one of my survivor teams this week, but I'll bite the bullet. If we get another bad Brady where Brady starts throwing picks against an awful defense with no real pressure in his face, but this should be a correction spot for that team. And look, I'll be honest, like the Raiders offense is going to be good this year. The Raiders offense is not as good as they looked last week. I mean, look, Jacobs is a great running back, but I mean, those holes he had to run through, my Lord, against Carolina. Carolina made that defense look a lot better. And I'm not a fan of Oakland's defense either. So I'm not like all impressed with Carolina moving the ball. All in all, I think the line's fair. I just think that Carolina is getting a little too much love in this spot. But look, time will tell. But I'm more or less off this game.
Yeah, pick on Carolina all season long. That's the worst defense there is. I mean, it's so bad that today a lot of us in DFS are going to be rolling out Ronald Jones. Okay, that's how bad the Carolina defense is. So it's pushed us to that level. DEFCON like 84. Denver, Pittsburgh. This is an interesting one here, JJ. So the total's at 40.5. We also have 6.5 Pittsburgh favorites at home. So we were just talking about offensive linemen. Now Pittsburgh's without a couple offensive linemen. I think that's kind of getting overlooked. You got a good Denver defense, although I think that Ben can still get to his – maybe Deontay Johnson down deep. It might be a little tougher if he doesn't have time, but Juju should feast. I don't know what the hell's going on with their running game, but I got to tell you, man, I thought Denver looked better than I thought they would, and I really don't hate the Denver side in this game. What about you?
So I don't remember if we broke down this game specifically. We might have did it quick because it was at the end, not part of today's slate. But last week with Denver, and I said that Denver game 1, their record, I don't think they lost a home game at home. Imagine. I don't think they've lost a game at home week 1 in their last 8 times hosting week 1, something like that. That's just a tough place to go to week 1 and win. And look, I told you I'm bullish on I'm bullish on Shermer to run that offense, on him to elevate Drew Lock and that whole entire offense. Jerry Jeudy looks real good. Outside of him, having some woeful drops because maybe he thought he might have had that extra first step. He was just wide open a lot in that game. As it relates to this one here, Denver off a bit of a short week, I will say, along with Pittsburgh. Both these teams kind of have shorter weeks per se. Pittsburgh, though, can't you argue Ben Roethlisberger is about a 10-point upgrade from who they had last year? I know 10 points is a lot, but man, Mason Rudolph, Bucky Hodges. I mean, these guys were in quicksand all year. Roethlisberger's at least got a potent arm. He's look at him running for 12-yard, first downs. I don't know if you saw him run for 12 yards, but that took 30 minutes. But it was impressive to see him back and good to see him back. And obviously, look, his home road splits he's another one that has tremendous home numbers versus not so good road numbers. That more or less may have been a Todd Haley issue years ago. Obviously, he's no longer there, but ultimately, Ben looked good week 1. I would if I'm going to give you a lean here, it'll be Pittsburgh, and I'm not a big guy to lay chalk like this. But look, I'm impressed with what I saw from Denver last week, but I can't forget the fact that Von Miller is not in that defense anymore to add pressure here to Ben. This game is not going to be in that altitude. Definitely lean for me would be Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the total is interesting too. That's a pretty low total at 40.5, but I really both of these defenses are terrific. I know Vaughn is gone, but there's a ton of talent. Bradley Chubb's pretty much healthy now. I got to tell you, man, this is a game where I think the Denver defense might have something here. That's 2 offensive linemen, but so your side on this, did you lay down anything on this game?
No, I didn't bet anything. Not good enough to love, but lean would be. I'd lay the points with Pittsburgh as a lean.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so Atlanta, Dallas. This is the fun one. This will be the highest, this most viewed game in that 1 o'clock hour. It's so much fun. 54. I think it got bet down to 53.5 at a couple places, JJ. And Dallas is 3-point favorites at home. You can get it between 10 and -20. Actually, DraftKings has it at 3.5 -9. I don't know about that. But so give me the lowdown on this. 54 points. How much is that in your book? I feel like this is a game that is going to go over. We saw Atlanta last week could not stop Russell Wilson. On the other side of things, I think Matt Ryan's pretty damn good. He's got some great weapons with Ridley and Julio. And gosh, I went back and forth all week on this, JJ. Ultimately, I did not end up going over, but I do have the lean there.
Yeah, so total opens 50. I mean, 50 was available for 3 seconds, though. It was really 51, and then it started really spiking throughout the week. Now you're seeing a bunch of 54s. Yeah, I mean, probably your chalkiest over bet of the day, but deservedly so, right? It does make a lot of sense that there's going to be points in this game. Now, here's the issue with a point total of 54.5. To me, this is like betting a like when you bet a team total over in Coors where it's 14.5. You go 3 innings where you get 1 run. I mean, you're almost drawing dead on the over. If they go in this game 1 quarter where they don't get 1 point, a first or a third quarter, because second quarter you'll get points. But if they go first or third quarter with 0 points where they just kind of move the ball, punch at the 50, whatever, long field position, field goals. I mean, 54 is a tough number to get over in the NFL. But with that said, DVOA, right? Atlanta was worse in the league in the week 1 last year. Last week I know Minnesota gave most yards per play, but DVOA, I thought I saw Falcons were the worst last week.
They got gashed through the air, completely gashed. And I mean, Chris Carson had a nice dump off and a touchdown run after that, but Metcalf had a field day in that game. And, that's why I think everybody's on these Dallas receivers today, because Amari Cooper got 14 targets last week. Now he goes home. He's got a terrific matchup. There's just both of these teams just match up so well against defenses, which is why the total's so high and why so many people, well, first of all, people are going to watch this game because the Cowboys. Second of all, we're all expecting it to just completely go off.
I tell you what, all this steam coming down on the Cowboys, where this line is now Cowboys -3. I mean, man, that is juicy. I know that last week you had a lot of people, you had a lot of steam on the Falcons versus the Seahawks. And I even said last week that would have been a live target for me, and it was. Of course, I got burned by Russell Wilson in that second half with the Falcons. But here, so now this line gets steamed down to 3. It's like at some point, so here's the good part when lines get steamed down.
Yeah.
When lines get steamed down, that impacts the live betting market, because what it closes at is what the line actually is in the live market. So obviously, if this closes at 3 and Atlanta scores first, you're basically going to be able to get Dallas at like +110, +115 money line if Atlanta scores a touchdown first. Which, look, I'm just saying that's a decent spot for you, especially with how bad you saw that defense was. So just something to consider. And if Dallas scores first, you're not going to get as much value now on Atlanta with that new line. So again, just something to consider. But points make a lot of sense in this game. Two quarterbacks who more or less don't turn the ball over all that often. I know that Ryan has some head-scratching moments last year, but for the most part, he's got a lot of good weapons. Both offenses fully healthy. Defense, I do think the Cowboys defense is definitely better than the Falcons, at least than they looked last week. That's a good Rams offense that they kind of semi-slowed down a bit last week. But anyway, ultimately, over makes a lot of sense. Numbers too big for me. It's been inflated. Lean would be Cowboys because the line's now dipped to 3.
Yeah, my big concern would be if Dallas does get off to like a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, and then the scoring just goes dry. Zeke is just carrying the ball a million times.
Yeah, they might take the air out of the ball. Yeah, I mean, you're basically hoping to need. That's why. So if you like the over, I mean, not a bad idea to bet the first half instead, because if the argument is like whoever gets the lead, they're gonna probably start to try to take the air out of the ball to limit possessions, especially if they get a double-digit lead. So just something to consider. That's a good point, Holden.
All right. Let's get to this San Francisco and the Jets. Do we have to spend much time on this? Total's 41.5. San Francisco -7, -10, -7, -110. So, I mean, this is ugly. There's no Kittle for San Francisco. Their offense looked like garbage except for Raheem Mostert. And then on the other side, like your biggest weapons for the Jets today are going to be Chris Herndon, Brashard
Perriman.
Are you kidding me?
Did you forget when Perriman went for 3 TDs last year when he got the start in Tampa?
Who was his quarterback? Jameis Winston, who just loved throwing, just chuck it in the air and go. Before we get to your pick on this, or if you even got one, a lean or something, like what do you think about the West Coast teams going east? Does that factor into your decision making ever?
I think 10, 15 years ago, it meant a little more. And what I mean by that is I don't think the market was as adjusted to it. I think now the market's like over it. Like I'm at a point now when I mention that on shows, I'm just like, yeah, and by the way, everybody knows it. West Coast team traveling east. It's already melted into the line. Like it's not even a point like I bring up as like this is why you shouldn't bet or should bet this team, because like I feel like it's already more or less assumed at this point. But as it relates to this game in particular, I think this is going to be your ultimate two-sided action where your quote-unquote sharps versus squares per se. So here's the thing, and I mentioned this on the DFS video from Friday night. The one thing the Jets do well is stop the run, okay? The one thing the 49ers do really well is run the football. Garoppolo with no Kittle, with no Sanders, with no Samuel, I'm really concerned that I know that the Jets don't have a secondary, but like, I don't know who Garoppolo's going to be throwing the football to. I mean, I know that somebody's going to have to catch passes, but I mean, this is a guy that makes mistakes when he has talented weapons around him. He now has no Kittle, none of his top 2 receivers. He's going to be throwing the ball to like Kendrick Bourne and Brandon Ayuk, an unproven, talent from Arizona State. Like I said, for me, a lot of sense on the under here, right? I mean, if you think the Jets are going to be in quicksand versus that defensive line, I'm not sold that San Francisco is going to come in here and pile up points either. So, Look, it makes at the hook, the Jets plus 7.5. I know it's a tough bet to make, but it does make sense. Just because, again, I can't confirm San Francisco is going to pile up points. I think the only way either team piles up points is if you just get turnovers in bad positions, like where like a team gets a really short field and they can just pile up points in that regard. Outside of that, the people that love the Niners just do keep in mind that. And also, that's a good point by Peddle, since the Jets do play better at home. This is a different Jets squad, though. I mean, obviously missing Adams and all them. But, ultimately, I'm not sold on Garoppolo as a quarterback anyway. Now he has no weapons. If the Jets overcommit to the run, he's going to be in a lot of third and longs. To me, he doesn't have a safety blanket in Kittle. There's just so many things here that kind of lean towards the under at 41. I know you could have got 43.5 earlier in the week, but not a spot I love in either regard, but do realize a lot of people are going to be, a lot of your public per se is going to be on the Niners here. More or less your bigger money's probably going to be on the Jets.
Like I said, I took Jets under 16.5. That's it. That to me is the side, but you make some great points. Like I almost want to bang the under now because I was thinking about this offense. I think there's just going to be a ton of running. It's like Tevin Coleman doesn't have to deal with smog. Well, he's in New York. I take that back. Like the smoke from the fires was a lot worse than the smog, I guess. Then you got Mostert, and then they can run McKinnon at. I think we're just going to see a lot of running in this game, so it makes a lot of sense. And I don't know how the Jets are going to move the ball. I think they're going to have to score a defensive touchdown to cover this, or just return it to like the 2. And then who the hell are their running backs? They got Adams today. It's just
I mean the more and more I look at it, I know you say you like the Jets team total under. I more or less am starting to really lean towards the San Francisco team total under. And if that hook goes to 7.5, that team total will jump up a bit. Again, I don't like that offense. I don't like that offense on the road when it has all its weapons. So now you're playing a team that's really good at stopping the run, and they lack Kittle. To me, like I said, short field to me the only way this game goes over. Short field turnovers.
So what do you like more, the Niners under or the whole game under?
I'd prefer the game under, just to be able to couple in the Jets too, who should struggle to move the ball.
All right, I like that game. I mean, I don't want to watch much of it because it's really ugly, but I like that game. Buffalo at Miami. Buffalo on the road. Josh Allen. Josh Allen, for all the love that we give Josh Allen, fumbled the ball twice and lost it, and he had 2 interceptions dropped last week. Then again, this is Miami we're talking about, right? But can you give 5.5 on the road for the Bills? Are they that good?
So just like we talked about last week, right, when the Jets played the Bills, what we really said? We really said the line's probably fair based on projected season outcomes of wins, but if the Bills are better than we think, which they are, or at least week 1 they were, and the Jets are worse than we think, which they were, then the line didn't make sense at all. Just bet the Bills. And the Bills basically dominated that whole game. The Bills probably would have won by 35 or 40 if Josh Allen doesn't fumble twice. But with that said, the Jets did look more competent in the second half of that game. Okay. First half, they kind of got the doors blown off them. Second half, they were moving the ball on offense. They were now I don't know if the Bills got a little complacent, but either way, numbers are what they are. The Jets looked a little better in the second half. This game in particular here. So here's my issue with this line. Buffalo minus 5.5. I don't think it'll go to 6, but it might. So New England, remember, last week was minus 6.5 at home against Miami. So more or less, this line indicates that the sports betting markets feel that Buffalo is 2 points better on a neutral field than New England. And I personally do not buy that. So at 5.5, the lean would be Miami, but I do understand why the line is like this. Because again, Buffalo, if Josh Allen plays at an above average clip this year, Buffalo is a Super Bowl contender. To me, there's no question about it. Okay. To me, that means you can get better value on them earlier in the year. And it opens 3.5 now. It's bought up to 5.5. I don't love Buffalo in this spot. Miami did look decent on offense last week. They should have, you could argue they actually should have covered versus New England. They had a chance to have a backdoor touchdown late. They also moved the ball really well. A few turnovers by Fitzpatrick kind of caused them that as well. Now, this Buffalo defense is better than New England, so you could argue for more turnovers for Fitzpatrick here. But expect Miami to move the ball. I mean, Fitzpatrick, that's what he does. He's at least able to move the ball downfield. He just does make a few boneheaded mistakes. I don't love this spot in either way. I don't love the 5.5 in either direction. The total makes sense There could be points. There could be long drives. So not a spot I love in any regard in this game. But again, do realize if you're betting Buffalo, you are more or less agreeing to the fact that you believe they are 2 points better than New England.
Minnesota, Indianapolis. This is an interesting one because Rivers now gets to go home. He's got T.Y. Hilton. The Indianapolis defense, I think, is underrated. The Minneapolis secondary, oh, my God. I mean, these dudes just get completely shredded. You want to talk about a unit that got worse by exponentially. I think it's them. So it's Indianapolis 3 at home, -3 at home, -3, -20. You can get into -3.5, -5. I don't think that's worth it. And the total's at 49, JJ. Does Indianapolis get their offense just completely rolling? I know the defense just kind of laid an egg late against the Jags. I'm still sold on them. So aside here.
Real ugly game, right? Real ugly game. What I will say is Minnesota seems to be quite chalky here, right? That's why the line's well, actually, the line's now starting to go the other way come game day. I think here's the thing. These two teams play week 1. What's this line? Okay, I think if these two teams play week 1, this line is probably Colts like -4, -4.5. And I say that because Minnesota's missing all those keys in their secondary. Now, here's the big thing, okay? So Mike Zimmer just does not lose 2 games in a row the way he lost that last game, especially on the defense. Like, he's a defensive guy, okay? He's a guy who's been really good against the spread for the last 3-4 years, okay? Almost in that Belichick neighborhood. But he just obviously they don't do well in big games. Now, this game in particular, Phillip Rivers, despite people talking about how bad he looked, like dude threw for almost 400 yards last week, and it wasn't like he had like some like late heroics against prevent defenses. Like they were leading for most of the game. The run game just wasn't working, and they were relying more on his arm. Now, obviously, now they get Jonathan Taylor, but Minnesota, like I said, to me, I'm not a Jonathan Taylor guy anyway, so he could have a good game. He'll get volume for sure.
I just don't get it. Like, why aren't you Jonathan Taylor guy? Is he just you don't think he's good enough, or is he too slow?
So here's the thing. So I was impressed when he ran that 4.440 at the dash. He ran like 4.41. Okay, right. To me that was impressed because game speed, he doesn't look like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so like when you watch Odell, right? Like Odell goes to the 40-yard dash. What do you want, like a 4.5, something like that? But like when you see his game speed, he just looks faster than everybody else on the field. So I don't know if it's a thing with pads, whatever it is. When I watch Taylor run, specifically behind the line of scrimmage in Wisconsin, look, he gets that benefit of the doubt behind that gigantic offensive line. He wasn't a good pass catcher. Now, I love the fact that they basically tried to prove the naysayers wrong, like myself, and let him catch 6 balls on last week. But I'll chalk that up as an anomaly. But more or less, look, he's going to have a good offensive line in front of him. But look, against a really susceptible defensive line last week, dude ran for nine carries for 22 yards. And by the way, he didn't even see the football field before Mac got hurt. And Mac had 4 carries for like 28 yards, almost 7 yards a carry.
But he's more dangerous in the pass game. Phil Rivers just dumps it down. We saw that with Eckler last year, you know?
So he does love those little check downs. And that's obviously, so if you argue Jonathan Taylor being in on first and second down on play actions, his value is going to be elevated because of the additional potential for check downs from Rivers. So fine, I'll give you that. But as far as running between the tackles, I just think he's much worse than people think. Now he could elevate his game. He could prove me wrong, really stick it up my ass. But I'm more of a believe it when I see it type of thing with him. But again, he's got the good offensive line in front of him. Wouldn't surprise if he has a big day today against a bad Minnesota defense with all those injuries. But this game in particular makes a lot of sense for points to be scored, right? I think two teams that really going to struggle to turn the ball over. Kirk Cousins, say what you want about him. He's typically good with the football, except for his sack fumbles. But interceptions-wise, he's usually relatively average or a little above average. Points are probably going to be scored in this game. His total's a bit high, though. I don't like either side in terms of Colts, Minnesota. I just think that it's very hard to justify how bad that Minnesota secondary is. It's bad, but is it as bad as Rodgers made it look last week? I don't know. And the Colts, how bad are they? Are they as bad as they looked last week? Was it an anomaly? Was it a week? I don't know either. So a lot of question marks coming into this game. Not a spot I'm going to really want to touch. But points are probably you're probably going to see a lot of points in this game.
Detroit, Green Bay, totals at 50. You also have a 6-point favorite for Green Bay at home now. You saw them completely torch the Vikings. Detroit's down at least 2 of their starters. We'll see if they're down 3. They're starting their number 3 overall pick today, so he's in there. The secondary for Detroit is not good. We saw Trubisky after these injuries last week. Trubisky threw those 3 touchdowns. That's how bad the secondary was. I mean, Green Bay at this point, and Kenny Golladay is out, so Detroit doesn't have much. I mean, I'm all over Green Bay in the over at this point. I just have no respect for Detroit's defense without their secondary. Where are you sitting here?
Yeah, so severe lean may even end up being a bet I make. Detroit team total over. So this is a Green Bay defense that gave up the second most yards per play last week. And I know that a lot of it was from ahead, but I don't really care. Like, this is not a good defense. Like, I know that like last year they kind of got lucky on some parts defensively, that they weren't so good against the run. And now this week they got shredded against Cousins. And it didn't matter what running back was in from Minnesota. Both of them were eating last week. And look how much more potent Detroit looked with Stafford throwing the football. Another arguable 10-point swing from quarterbacks from last year to this year. Galladay's important, but again, we had this discussion earlier with receivers. I don't really value him all that much. I mean, ultimately, look how good Stafford looked without him. I get it. Galladay's good, but our man Quentin Cephas, or was it Quiston Cephas, the dude from Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Dude comes in and he got 10 targets. I know he didn't catch a lot, but and then look, Danny Amendola's a nice little safety net for him, right? And Marvin Jones is still decent. They love Hawkinson. So anyway, Detroit team total over. I think here's the thing. If you're assuming, okay, well, Green Bay is going to be able to pile up points against that awful secondary. Well, I mean, you're going to get Stafford gunslinging today, aren't you? So I think that there's a lot of scenarios where Detroit goes over their team total here. It should be, I don't know if you have it in front of you, Holden, but that team total should be like what? 22?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
22, 21 and a half, something like that. That would be a strong lean for me.
Let's see here. Packers total 27 and a half, 22 and a half for the Lions. At least
is that a dog money?
Yes. Over both sides are minus 110.
Okay. Yeah, I would feel like we can maybe get a little better there. But 21 and have not a big difference between 21 and 22, to be honest. But okay, so yeah, that would be a strong lean for me. I did like what I saw from Detroit last week. I did not like what I saw from Green Bay's defense. I think that Detroit puts up points on the board today.
So what about the over then on the game?
Well, here's the only issue with the over. The over is an implied over that's already moved 4 points. So okay. For me, the over the way it is, because Detroit's the dog, their team total doesn't go up all that much. So instead of getting like 22 and a half, instead of getting 21 and a half, now you're getting 22 and a half, which again, not a big difference. But now Green Bay, instead of getting 26 and a half, you have to get 27 and a half. 27 is a semi-key number. It's 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals. So I don't love the Green Bay over. I do really like the Detroit over.
20 and a half at 5 dimes with West Coast.
I assume that's heavily Vig West Coast, but I do like that.
Giants, Bears. I have no interest in this game. Chicago 5.5 point favorites. Totals 42 or 42 and a half. I don't like it.
Real ugly game. I think Giants are going to be somewhat chalky here. And again, we mentioned this last week, or I think we did. Giants have all their weapons back, right? Barkley, Ingram, Shepard, Danny Dimes, all in the same field at the same time. Wasn't common last year, right? And I'll be honest, like I feel like the Giants got a good version of Pittsburgh last week, and they kind of contended, right? I mean, to me, like if Detroit doesn't have that letdown, letdown in the fourth quarter last week, this line's not 5.5, right? I mean, this line's probably going to be 3.5, 4. So Chicago pulls a win out of their ass in the fourth quarter last week. Everybody sees the Giants lose and how bad their defense looked against Ben Roethlisberger. Offense looked like it was kind of in quicksand. Barkley has his worst game of his career. But with that said, 5.5 is a tricky number, right? Because you'd have to ultimately have to win by a touchdown, but you could still backdoor cover late in that number. Not a spot I like in any regard. Would lean Giants, but not a spot I love.
Here's another one: Jacksonville, Tennessee. Totals 44.5. Now Tennessee minus 7.5. I mean, you could tease this one down if you want to throw it in another game. This is just ugly again, man. I just see like all the Derrick Henry in the world. And you were saying the wide receivers don't matter. A.J. Brown, their deep threat there. Again, this is gross. Was it you that brought up the idea, the teaser? I don't remember who. Was that King again?
Yeah. So the teaser for me again, Tennessee was a part of it, was bringing Tennessee down to 2.5 and bringing Philly up to 8.5. I mean, up 7.5. Tennessee, I was shocked that this line continued to go. Now, I know Jacksonville's getting a lot of love here. They're getting a lot of sharp action. They're getting a lot of square action. Ultimately, there's just a lot of Jacksonville love in this spot. So ultimately, you have to ask yourself, the version I saw of Jacksonville last week, is it, even if it's half as good as that, should they be more than a touchdown underdog to this team? So, but here's the issue. If this game scripts properly, okay, and Tennessee can just take the air out of the football and Jacksonville can do nothing to stop the run, this has the makings of a real run, play action, big bomb, run, play action, big bomb for Tennessee. Now, Gardner Minshew played really well last week. I didn't love what I saw out of Tennessee's defense last week. So yeah, you could argue Jacksonville makes a ton of sense in this spot, and I know that a lot of people are backing them here. But, look, as far as winning the game, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that Tennessee just loads up. And look, here's the thing. Derrick Henry has 2 of his best games of the year last year versus Jacksonville. There's something schematically wrong with the way this team tackles him for whatever reason. And I know that you could argue, it's only 2 games, but now they've lost a few more players, Jacksonville. To me, I don't know how they stop Henry today. Unless they limit Henry off of a short week, maybe they give him a little breather. I don't know, but regardless, Jacksonville getting a lot of love today. You've obviously lost your chance to get a good number. Do realize last Monday, this line was 12. So if you're now coming in on Sunday and laying, and getting only 7 points with Jacksonville, you've really done yourself a disservice. But regardless, not a spot I like in any regard on the spread at the moment.
Keg, I like that. Little Henry attempts over. Huh? What's that set at, though?
It's got to be at 21 or 22.
Yeah, I was going to say 22.5. That's interesting. That's really interesting. I think there's a couple of guys that just go off today. Hey, Keg, if you're still watching now, what's the total there? I'm fascinated to find out because I thought it'd be inflated a little bit at 22.5. Baltimore, Houston. Baltimore just does not stop scoring, and they're blowing everybody out. 38 points, 38-6 last week. Houston coming off just a train wreck, a complete train wreck against Kansas City. They haven't played in a long time, though, JJ. So it's been like, at least a week and a half last Thursday. So, yeah, we're talking a week and a half for Houston. They got nice and rest up, 49.5 total. Any interest there? Baltimore, 7.5. God, that hook pisses me off. It's a good job by Vegas. I like that. That hook pisses me off. I don't like it. What do you think?
These two teams play last year. Baltimore blows the doors off them. I think they won by 40 points. And I always say, like in NFL, like if a team wins by like 2 or 3 touchdowns, you could argue game flow, game script went against one team. If a team blows out another team, there's just something wrong. Because here's the thing. There's only so many things that can go wrong in one game. Okay. Houston couldn't move the ball, and Houston couldn't stop Baltimore moving the ball. It was like every possession. So do you see more of that this week is the question. If you see more of it, this line doesn't even matter. You can bet adjusted spreads. If you think Houston, with the extra time to prep and now with more tape on Lamar, can do things to at least slow him down in this game, and I think that's why the total is coming down. If you think he can do things to slow him down in this game, you'll have a guy in Watson who's going to be live late. Now, a lot of people don't like Watson. He's a garbage time quarterback sometimes. But now he has no Hopkins to bail him out. But I'll tell you what, he didn't look bad week 1. I mean, I know that Kansas City kind of really put the clamps on and really forced him to become very one-dimensional in that second half. But now you get a little extra time. I'll be honest, I don't love Baltimore in this spot. I know that a lot of people are probably going to want to lay the 7.5. But I know what I saw last year in this game, so I don't want to grab the 7.5 with Houston either. Total at 49.5 does make sense. Lean over because I would expect Houston to be able to put some points on the board here. But, not a spot I love in any regard. I get the Baltimore love, but you're going to have a little Houston here with a little extra time to prep and maybe get a little Watson magic today to make this a game late.
So this is an interesting one. We got a couple games left here. Kansas City at the Chargers. This is another 425 game. Kansas City, 8.5-point favorites on the road. And the total's between 47.5. You know what the fascinating thing here, you really go back a couple of years, the Chargers have played the Chiefs very, very well. Now, they lost 24-17 at home last year. Chiefs had a 10-point victory at home as well. So this is I don't like it from the Kansas City side. Yeah, I mean, they could just go off and at any point in time. Okay, and their offense looked great, and they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and blah, 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 blah. Man, no matter how bad or good the Chargers are, they give them a tough time. I don't like the total.
Yeah,
I don't like the sides, either side.
You have over the last 2 years in the NFL, you have two individuals who have been more or less what you can call algorithm busters. Okay, Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Okay, these are two guys who you can project their outcomes, and they just consistently way exceed outcomes. And you can't overly project because then your numbers just get all skewed. But these are two guys who consistently just over project algorithms, models, projections. And now here, so the only point I'll give you here is last year they kept this game close twice. Okay. Now the difference last year was at least they had a potent enough quarterback to at least consistently move the ball downfield. Now Phillip Rivers does turn the ball over, but he does move the ball downfield. Tyrod Taylor, I'm a little concerned in his passing ability. Don't get me wrong, he's a definitely potent quarterback, a potent enough quarterback. Got a good, we mentioned last week, decent QBR when he's had at least 14, 15 starts in the season. But in this spot, I know that the Chiefs are going to get some of my love. Your most popular money line parlay for sure this week is going to be Chiefs Ravens, right? But basically, might lay $1.50, and they just both have to win. This spot scares me a little more, and I say that because this is a good defense. Okay, Patrick Mahomes has shown. If you look at all the teams he's played and teams he's piled up points against, this is not a team he's more or less piled up yards and points against. Okay, this team has a good pass rush, decent numbers in the secondary, decent members in the secondary. Now the question is going to be: is can the Chargers at least put enough points up on the board to keep this close enough? What I will say is also about this line. Last year in Kansas City, this line was about 9, I think it was. Now this game's in LA. It's almost 9 here. It's almost like, you're getting about a 2 to 3 point edge, or unless, like, if you value Tyrod and Phillip Rivers at the same, you're getting, more or less you're getting more or less 2 or 3 points. Now, if you value Rivers above Tyrod, then maybe that line correlates. But there's a lot of people that just don't like Phillip Rivers. They've cost him a lot of games because he turns the ball over. The good thing about Tyrod is he does not really turn the ball over, so there is that. But all in all, there's value here on the Chargers if you want to bet them at this number based on last year's numbers. But yeah, takes a grab your balls kind of moment, because always tough to bet against Pat Mahomes. And the numbers really never seem to matter, right? Because Kansas City just keeps scoring. They don't really care. Like they're like a D1 school trying to really pile up points to pad their record. Like if they're this is what I mean, Holden, when I say that they're against algos. Like a team like the Chiefs, if they're up 7 with 4 minutes left and they're inside the opponent's 50, normally that's like a hand the ball off, run the clock out, take your knees, game over. This team will run play actions and throw the ball 30 yards downfield with 4 minutes left in the game to really just blow up a line. So ultimately, not a spot I love, but regardless, would lean the Chargers.
Our last game, it's the night game, New England at Seattle. Cam against Russell Wilson. 44.5 is the total. And I'm seeing 3.5 minus 50. What would you prefer here? Let's just say you're betting on Seattle here. Would you take the 3.5 minus 15 or the 4 minus 10? I mean, that's just an itty bitty bit of vig, but what's the better value?
Yeah, so 5 cents. You'd have to. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, and it's a little different now that there's no more. The extra points aren't a sure thing, and a lot more teams go for 2. But back in the day, 3 points used to be a huge number. Like, and I say it's still a big number, but it's just not as big as it once was, because you see a lot more games, and you saw it in Denver the other night. Like, games just don't land on 3 as often as they once did, and it has to do with the longer extra points, more teams going for 2, a lot more missed field goals as well. But anyway. So when you're thinking about that, you more or less have to know the true odds on a game to land on that number. But do realize if books let you buy points, which they always do, it's never going to be plus EV for the player. But that doesn't mean you can't leverage the best number at multiple books, right? So if you could see 3.5, 115 at one book, you could see 4, 115 at another book. As far as 5 cents, I'm typically 5 cents, probably not the biggest of deals at 15 if you can get it. But I have to look at the exact numbers to see if it makes sense. But it's really the same book as doing it for 5 cents?
Let me see. Let me just go back here. So I got BetMGM at 3.5 minus 15. Everybody else is 4 minus 10.
Yeah. So then it makes sense to do BetMG. Then it makes sense to do BetMGM there for 5 cents if it lands 4, you'll win. What I will say is this is going to be my bet for the video, my pick from it. New England plus the 4. I gave it out yesterday in our spreadsheets, and I put it in the Discord as well. So I told you guys I liked New England last week. Okay. I thought that top coaches made a lot of sense week 1, laying the points with them, and a lot of top coaches ended up winning and covering last week. But this week in particular, and we've said this before, Atlanta was DVOA one of the worst defenses last week. Now, New England has their own issues. I'll mention another narrative to this game is Bill Belichick's mother passed away on Monday. Rest in peace. I wasn't sure if everybody was aware of that. Now, ultimately, when you're handicapping a game, you're never going to really know what that means to a line. But obviously, someone loses a family member like that, it's got to have some level of impact to their week. But more or less, that's just a narrative angle to betting it. But here's the thing. So I loved what I saw from that offense with Cam last week. I thought they moved the ball really well. I know that it's Miami's defense, but I thought that you got like what looked to be a really healthy Cam Newton, 15 carries. And he looked like he was in sync with Edelman. This team was about to score again if N'Keal Harry doesn't foolishly dive into the end zone with the ball, leaving it loose, and it fumbles out of the back for a touchback. So ultimately, Seattle's defense is really not that good. Now, I know that they were able to play much more one-dimensional against Atlanta once they went up big, and Jamal Adams was a big help to that defense. But I'm not sold on this defense. I think that New England can move the ball on them. And look, the one thing about Belichick, and he's already done it this week, right? He's already doing the Bill Belichick things in press conferences. Russell Wilson is the best quarterback I've seen in the NFL. This guy is so good. I don't know how we're going to stop him. Like, this is the shit he always does. And it's like a semi level of trolling from him. I'm not saying they're going to put him in quicksand tonight, but he's always a step ahead. I can get 4 points. Look, Seattle should be favored here, but this does make sense that this should be a closer game, maybe a field goal late. I'll be happy to take the 4 in this spot. And I just think you're going to get a good Sunday Night Football game where I'm happy to take the 4. And again, I gave it out last night in our Discord.
Yeah, watch the video. Go do it. Big video coming out, right? He's JJ. I'm Holden. I want to leave you with this because I got to hop over to the sports side to do DFS with my man JSU. Why is Ralph Serra asking about his flaccid dick size? Why are we doing this? Is this an ongoing bit from you?
Yeah. Well, Holden, you know the rules. Somebody enters the live video, they're supposed to give their first name, last name, which usually comes up in their comment, social security numbers for archival purposes, and non-erect dick size. I mean, it's just it's just a comment. It's just a common theme here. It's always been the case with the live videos. And if anything, Ralph's the trooper for understanding the rules and knowing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, mine goes inward, so it's like -1.
I tell you what, I get a little nervous. I'm rocking a negative, Holden.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm going negative. It goes inside, not outside. JJ, wonderful working with you, buddy. Good times. Good luck today, everybody. And JJ, where do they follow you on Twitter? We got to get you you're a superstar. You need at least 20K. So come on, that should be your goal by the end of football season. Yeah,
you know what? Well, thank you for that, Holden. But you know what it is? I don't pound my chest enough to earn that 20K. I mean, I think a lot of these guys that get the bigger followings from sports, but usually they're usually chest pounders when they win. I'm pretty quiet overall on Twitter in that regard. But happy to help and always happy to work with you here, Holden. So at Sports with Facts on Twitter. Ultimately we'll have a live show on Run Pure Bets for our Discord today, where we'll be sweating action. Obviously, we have a bunch of plays for today. Again, only $20 a week, $60 a month. It's the worst thing you do. You could try it. $20 a week. We're all, it's our 7 handicappers. Even the DFS guys even give their stuff as well in the betting Discord, and we have people asking us questions, throughout the days and nights in the Discord. So again, it's not so much that we give you all wins. We also dodge you guys from a lot of losses. But look, try it out. Give it a shot. If you like it, great. Ultimately, join the community. If not, it's all good. But we have our live show today, which will be for about 4 or 5 hours, where we'll be sweating action, giving out more bets on our channel here. But again, that's just for our members. So wish you guys all the best of luck today. Holden, again, great working with you. Where are you going to be next? Maybe they can follow you where you're going.
Yeah, at Holden Radio on Twitter. And I'm going over to the Run Pure Sports side. JSU, who I think is the best DFS player out there in football, basketball, and baseball. Me and him are going to do it. Last week, he got me on the Packers offense, wrap it around with Thielen. We won a ton of money.
That kind of worked out.
Yeah, unfortunately, my cash lineup sucked. All right, let me get over there. JJ, you're awesome, dude. Thanks for everybody for listening today. Again, you got 2 minus 1 inch guys, and that's why the
if that.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Good luck today and stay safe.